Let's be real for a second. Your mind is like this incredibly powerful computer, but it comes with a pre-installed operating system. And that OS is full of hidden rules, glitches, and little biases that you're probably not even aware of. These secret rules quietly shape pretty much every single decision you make. So you know what? Let's start hacking our own mental software. We're going to uncover those hidden rules and give our thinking a serious upgrade.
Okay, let's start with a classic dilemma. Picture this. You're in the theater, you paid for the ticket, and 30 minutes in, the movie is just awful. So, what do? Do you stay or do you leave? Now, a lot of people feel this really strong pull to stay, right? To get their money's worth. But is that actually the smart choice? The answer reveals one of the most common glitches in our thinking, and don't worry, we'll definitely come back to this.
So first, we've got to ask a really fundamental question. Are you truly in the driver's seat of your own mind? We all love to think that we're these perfectly rational beings, that we see the world objectively. But the truth? It's a lot messier. We're constantly being influenced in ways we just don't even perceive.
See, your perception isn't like a perfect photograph of reality. It's much more like a painting, where your brain is the artist, constantly deciding what to highlight and what to leave in the shadows. This is a concept called framing, and it's one of the most powerful and invisible forces shaping your decisions. For example, would you rather buy meat that's labeled 75% lean? I mean, that sounds pretty good, right? Healthy. But what about meat that's labeled 25% fat? Doesn't sound quite as appetizing, but here's the kicker. They are the exact same thing. The only thing that changed was the frame. By focusing on the positive, the lean, it becomes way more appealing.
And this isn't just about groceries. Check this out. Which sounds safer to you? A condom with a 90% success rate or one with a 10% failure rate? Again, they're identical, but framing it in terms of success versus failure completely changes how we feel about it. Our brains are just hardwired to freak out about potential losses way more than we celebrate potential gains.
And this is where it gets really serious. This isn't just marketing fluff. This affects life and death decisions. In one study, when doctors were told a surgery had a 90% survival rate, a huge majority, 82%, said go for it. But when another group was told the very same surgery had a 10% mortality rate, support for it just plummeted. Even the experts are totally swayed by framing.
Okay, so framing messes with our conscious thoughts. But what's going on underneath the surface, in our subconscious? Well, it turns out our brains are constantly being primed. They're being subtly influenced by totally random things in our environment, and we have absolutely no idea it's happening.
And this is where things get truly weird. Get this, in one study, they set up an honesty box for people to pay for coffee. It collected way more money when they just put up a picture of a coconut that kind of looks like a face. Why? Because that subconscious feeling of being watched, even by a piece of fruit, was enough to make people more honest. It's happening, and we're completely oblivious.
So our minds can be tricked by a simple phrase, or even a coconut. But what happens when these mental glitches start to affect how we see other people? Well, that leads us to what might just be the single biggest mistake we make in judging others.
This one is a biggie. It's called the fundamental attribution error, and it's basically our brain's default setting for judging people. When we see someone do something, our first instinct is to assume it's because of who they are, their personality, their character. We almost completely ignore the power of the situation they're in.
Let me show you how this works with a classic experiment. Researchers set up this fake quiz show. One person was randomly chosen to be the questioner, and another was the contestant. Now, the questioner got to write their own difficult questions, pulling from whatever obscure stuff they happened to know. This setup gave them a huge, totally obvious advantage.
And the results were just wild. People who were just watching rated the questioner as genuinely smarter than the contestant. But here's the craziest part. Even the contestants themselves bought into it. They thought the questioners were more intelligent. Everyone saw the behavior and completely, totally ignored the giant situational advantage that was staring them right in the face.
So, here's the bottom line. When we explain our own behavior, we're hyper-aware of the situation. Oh, I was late because traffic was a nightmare. I was just stressed, that's why I was grumpy. But when we see someone else do the exact same thing, we jump straight to character. Wow, they're so disorganized. They're just a rude person. And that simple difference is the root of so many problems.
Now, these mental mistakes aren't just fascinating little quirks. They have real, tangible costs in our everyday lives. And this next part is all about how we let things that have already happened sabotage the decisions we're making right now.
This quote really nails a powerful economic idea. What's done is done. The past is gone. Any time, money, or effort you've already spent is gone forever. Economists have a name for these: sunk costs. And our inability to just ignore them is one of the most expensive mistakes we make, over and over again.
And boom, this takes us right back to that terrible movie. The reason you feel that magnetic pull to stay in your seat is the sunk cost fallacy. You already spent the money on the ticket. It's gone. It's a sunk cost. The real decision you should be making is, what's the best way to spend the next 2 hours of my one and only life? Staying in that theater is just throwing good time after bad money.
All right, let's look at another one of these little economic traps. Imagine I offer you a simple bet, a coin toss. If it's tails, you lose $100. If it's heads, you win some amount. My question to you is, how much would that winning amount have to be for you to take this bet? Just think about it for a second. It's got to be more than 100, obviously, but how much more?
Well, for most people, the answer is somewhere around $200. This shows a really core principle of our psychology called loss aversion. The psychological pain of losing $100 feels roughly twice as bad as the pleasure of gaining $100. Losses just feel so much bigger than gains in our minds. And because of that, we end up being overly cautious and turning down a lot of really good opportunities.
Okay, so we've identified the problems, right? Framing, priming, attribution errors, all these economic fallacies. The good news is we can actually fight back. The key is to stop relying so much on our flawed intuition and start, just a little bit, to think more like a scientist.
All right, here's a quick puzzle to test that statistical intuition. You've got 2 hospitals, a big one with about 45 births a day, and a small one with about 15. So which hospital do you think has more days where the percentage of boys born is unusually high, say over 60%? Now, most people guess they're the same, or maybe the big one, but that gut feeling is wrong.
The correct answer is the small hospital. This is a perfect example of the law of large numbers. See, small samples are just naturally more chaotic and prone to wild swings. A few boys born in a row at the small hospital can totally skew the daily percentage, but at the big hospital, with a large sample, all those random fluctuations tend to cancel each other out, getting you much closer to the true 50-50 average. We make this mistake all the time. We see 1 or 2 examples of something and jump to a huge conclusion, totally forgetting how misleading small samples can be.
So, if our intuition is so unreliable, how do we make better choices in the real world? Well, one of the most powerful tools out there is A/B testing. Instead of just guessing or arguing over what might work best, you actually test it. It's simple. You create 2 versions of something, A and B. You show them to different groups, and then you just measure what happens. The most important part, you let the cold, hard evidence decide what's best, not just the opinion of whoever's in charge.
And this is a total game changer. Back in 2008, the Obama campaign famously used A/B testing to figure out the best design for its donation website. They tested different buttons, different pictures, different headlines, and the winning combination, which, by the way, nobody on the team predicted, led to a 140% increase in signups. That translated into millions of extra dollars and thousands of volunteers. That's the incredible power of data over gut feeling.
So we've seen how easily our minds can be tricked and how we can use data to cut through all that noise. But this isn't just for scientists or big campaigns. It's for all of us. And it all comes down to a really simple but powerful question you should ask yourself. What is one important belief that you hold about your career, about your relationships, about your own life that's really just based on intuition, but you've never actually put it to the test?